Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Criterion Channel, January 2021, some of the films that are arriving on the channel this month, and also some of the films that will be going away on January 31st, 2021. First up, there's going to be a curated section on Peter Sellers movies. I would guess that the most famous ones would be Lolita and Dr. Strangelove, Sellers' two collaborations with Stanley Kubrick, and they are, of course, classic performances by Sellers showing his chameleon-like abilities as an actor. There's another film from 1955, The Lady Killers, that I highly recommend. Sellers doesn't have a real big part in it, but he's very good. It's more Alec Guinness and the little old lady whose house they rent a room from, who does them all in their nefarious plot to rob a bank truck. There's also a curated section on Jane Fonda movies, and this includes Clue, probably her most acclaimed performance as an actress. I would point out a couple films, one from 1966, and that's The Chase, a movie that was a screenplay written by Lillian Hellman. The director was Arthur Penn. And this is Penn's first film before the sensational success he was to have the following year with Bonnie and Clyde. Amongst the stars with Jane Fonda are Robert Redford and also Marlon Brando. And I watched a few minutes of the movie just to see what it looked like, and the picture quality is absolutely superb. And I've seen this movie many times in the past. It's certainly a critically drubbed movie, but I think it has a lot of entertainment value, particularly in Marlon Brando's rather unusual performance, but he was always giving unusual performances. The following year, Redford and Fonda reunited on a Neil Simon comedy called Barefoot in the Park, and I've already watched this from beginning to end, and I've seen it many times before. Again, the picture quality is just unbelievable. Jane Fonda and Robert Redford are impossibly good looking. They both have terrific comic timing. Neil Simon, great Neil Simon jokes in the movies, ably supported by Mildred Natwig and Charles Boyer. There's also another film I'm looking forward to revisiting, and that's 1986, The Morning After. And this is a thriller in which Jeff Bridges co-starred with Jane Fonda. They're also including this month. Last month they did a Cary Grant comedy curated section, and I thought it was supposed to include Bringing Up Baby, but Bringing Up Baby was not included, but they are adding it this month. Bringing Up Baby is one of those movies that has not made it to Blu-ray for some reason. It's a classic screwball comedy directed by Howard Hawks and starring Katharine Hepburn as well as Cary Grant, and it's just a hilarious movie. It's probably my all-time favorite comedy, certainly the comedy movie I've watched more than any other. I also would like to mention a film from 2016 called Always Shine by Sophia Takal. This stars Mackenzie Davis, an actress I really like, and it's called a provocative psychological thriller. I've not seen it, but it sounds really well worth checking out. And also, going back to the Peter Sellers section, the channel is also including a documentary called The Ghost of Peter Sellers. It's by Peter Medic, and Medic made a film. He was making a pirate film with Peter Sellers. Sellers gave them all kinds of problems. The film was never completed. So Medic shows some of the things that happened, how difficult it was to work with Peter Sellers. I'd also say that I was surprised that this month is including 9 films by Bertrand Tavernier. And I made, in a previous video, I mentioned that I bought A Sunday in the Country, a Tavernier film on Blu-ray, which is included in these 9 films, also including The Judge and the Assassin. I've already seen, chronologically speaking, the first 2 of these 9 films, The Clockmaker of St. Paul and The Judge and the Assassin. I must say, I'm finding the narratives and the psychology a little bit muddled. I'm not quite in tune so far with Tavernier. Coup de Torchon is, of the subsequent 7, Coup de Torchon is the only other movie that I've previously seen by Tavernier. In fact, I owned it on DVD and watched it quite a few times. Isabelle Huppert is in both of those films. She has a small, rather strange role in The Judge and the Assassin, and then she has a really big, in one of her iconic roles in Coup de Torchon. And the star of the first 2 movies and most of the other Tavernier films is Philippe Noiret. He was sort of Travernier's John Wayne, Robert De Niro. He actually resembles Tavernier, and has this sort of a sad hangdog look, but he could be very versatile. Criterion is also including a line of commentaries, a row of commentaries on their website, where they've isolated out some of the movies. All these, I think, are movies that have been on the channel, but you have to kind of like search. I wonder what movies have a commentary. Well, they put about 15 movies out, including, and I watched a little bit, which is really helpful, I think, for people who like to listen to commentaries. I generally like to watch a movie at least twice before I listen to the commentary, just so I'm sure I'm having my own reaction to it and thinking about it. But Stephen Prince did the commentary on High and Low, and I listened to about the first, I think I listened to this once before because I owned High and Low on DVD. Stephen Prince passed away a few days ago, but he was brilliant. He was a real expert on Kurosawa films, Japanese films, and so I'm really grateful to see Criterion include this direction to some of their commentaries. Now, there's many other movies, and you can go to CriterionCast.com, C-A-S-T, and you'll get an in-depth listing of all the movies that are being added to the films. They don't tell you on that site what is leaving on January 31st, but on the website, on the channel itself, you can scroll through the movies. Another very helpful thing for the channel the information for the channel to give their viewers. I'm just going to highlight a couple recommendations that maybe overlooked kind of movies that I enjoyed. 3 of them come from the psychiatric curated section that's been up there for 2-3 months. And 2 of those films, Blind Alley and The Dark Past, Blind Alley from 1939, The Dark Past from 1948. Dark Past, a remake of Blind Alley, a story of a psychotic killer who escapes from prison and hides out in a lakeside house where there's a party going on, dinner party going on, and they hide out there waiting for compadres to come and rescue him. He's already, with the aid of a couple of his former mob, and as it turns out, the owner of the house is a psychiatrist, and so the psychotic killer sort of gets diagnosed in one night and kind of learns. One night he learns where his traumas come from. Blind Alley starred Chester Morris and as the killer, and Ralph Bellamy as a psychiatrist. In the remake, it's William Holden as the killer. B.J. Cobb as a psychiatrist. I like the remake better, but both are pretty good. It's almost a scene-by-scene remake. They do drop a plot point that was very disturbing in the 1939 one. And the film is also interesting to see William Holden play a really bad guy. I don't know how many bad guys he played, but sometimes he would play sort of amoral characters, but this is an out-and-out killer. There's a couple. There's another movie from that psychiatric curated section that's leaving January 31st, and that's the Cobweb, a Vincent Minnelli movie from 1955. And this is set in a psychiatric institution. It's run by Richard Widmark, and he's very liberal, and he wants to try new methods. These are deeply disturbed inmates, but they're not dangerous inmates. He forms sort of a democracy. They vote on what drapes to put up in the library, and their whole linchpin of the narrative is centered around these drapes because Richard Widmark's wife, who's very unhappy and wants to be more part of her husband's life, has her own plans for these drapes. It causes all kinds of commotion. And another reason, one of the reasons to watch this film is in CinemaScope. It's got incredible sets. You can, every frame of the movie, you can find all kinds of things to look at. Has a touching romance between John Kerr and Susan Strasberg, teenagers struggling with connecting with other people, especially the opposite sex. But maybe the main reason I recommend this movie is for Gloria Graham lovers, because she's just absolutely superb. She looks awesome. She gives a terrific performance, and it's up there with some of her other great performances in A Lonely Place and others. But in Technicolor, she's amazing in this period of time, which was 1955. There's also a ghost story that I really enjoyed that's leaving on January 31st called The Invited. It's one of these haunted houses by the ocean, and it's right on a side of or on top of a cliff. It's got a great atmosphere, has a kind of humorous tone to it, and a really sensitive and beautiful performance by Gail Russell. Last one I'll mention that may be overlooked in the movies that are leaving on January 31st is Moulin Rouge from 1952. This is not obviously the Baz Luhrmann, Nicole Kidman Moulin Rouge. This is John Huston's Moulin Rouge. Jose Ferrer as Toulouse-Lautrec. It's beautifully restored. The Technicolor is just amazing, and really sets up the paintings by Toulouse-Lautrec and the atmosphere of Lautrec's life, which is basically bars, cafes, I was going to say go-go dancers. Can-can dancers were the go-go dancers of the turn of the century. The narrative is kind of turgid, but I didn't care because I was just totally enthralled by the look of the film and the creation of art and where art comes from. So that about wraps it up for January of 2021 as far as the Criterion Channel goes. If I continue to make videos, I'm not sure I'm going to do that yet, but if I do, I'll try to do one of these type videos every month as Criterion Channel. The Criterion Channel is obviously one of the great resources for those people who love classic cinema. It's certainly my go-to channel. Okay, that about will wrap it up. You guys take care, and I'll see you soon.